Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Humans 2.0 podcast. This is your host, Mark Metry. Today, I'm joined by my friend, Cory. Cory, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Thank you so much for being here. We're up in New York City, and, you and I, we were just talking about, just sort of, past experiences, and I'm just super, super excited to jump into this. But the first question that I always start off to ask my guests is, how do you spend your time here on planet Earth?
Wisely.
All right, cool. That's a one-word answer. That's awesome. Nobody's ever done that before. So one person said like a word, and they were like, "Wait, was that?" Or they tried to explain on it. But I'm glad you're the first, man.
Oh, I'm glad to be the first. I do like to talk,
Yeah.
but I learned through profession and from some limited training that when you've won, you leave it at winning.
Sure. So, as a lawyer, of course. So, dude, I'd love it for us to sort of go back, and you and I were talking about, a little bit about your childhood, but like, I want to know your origin story, like what you look back on today that was super, super impactful and like kind of like helped you give you your superpowers.
Yeah. I hope I do have superpowers. I hope I'm displaying superpowers. I had struggles in learning, struggles in focus as a kid. And I think it's helped me turn into the person that I am today. My inability to learn and function like every normal kid kind of gave me the personality that I have now, where it is that I think that anything that I choose to do is going to happen. And that's how my mind works. If I decide I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, and it's going to be successful, and it's going to work. But without those struggles early on, I don't think I would have gotten to that point because it was a long time coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I literally say the same thing all the time. I love that. So like let's like explain a little bit more, like what were some of those struggles that you had like learning as a kid?
Well, I had a lot of trouble sitting still. I had trouble focusing. I could not keep my mouth shut. I bothered my classmates. I bothered my teachers. I was always sent to the back of the class or out of the class or switched classrooms because teachers didn't want to deal with me. 1 year, I actually was offered by a teacher. And I know I told you a different story about something interesting that happened in school, but 1 year, I was so bad in one class that a teacher pulled me aside, and she cried because I was just ruining her class. She pulled me aside the next day before class started and made a proposition to me. She said, "Cory, I want to give you the opportunity to choose to go to the office and sit in the office rather than be in my class, rather than you mess the class up and then me send you to the office or have someone come and get you and take you down to the office." And I had a pretty good relationship with the principal and vice principal. I was in there a lot. And depending on my mood, I would take her up on it. Some days I would be in class, and some days I would choose to go down and sit in the principal's office or the vice principal's office. And I was a pain. But my friends loved me, and I had no trouble with my family. It was just the learning environment that caused me grief.
So after you got out of high school, like, how did you go to college, or what was that experience in terms of you trying to learn things? How did that grow and mature and advance, if it did?
It did. Well, it started. I always did fine in math. So no one thought that I was a dumb kid. It was just how are we gonna figure out how to get him on the learning curve that everyone else is on? And the answer was that never. I was never going to learn the same way that everyone else was going to learn. Right. But in 11th grade, I got a little bit of special attention from the school. I had a private tutor assigned to me that I would meet with a couple times after a week after school, and kind of went over the basics of kind of reading comprehension and all of the class that I missed when I wasn't paying attention as a kid, and kind of brought me up to speed. And so by the time I graduated high school, I was fine. Like I knew how to learn I could learn. My grades were stable at the end of high school, and I graduated on time. And choosing to go to college really wasn't a big option for me because I played sports and I wanted to continue to play sports, and I wanted to play sports in college. So I went to college because I wanted to continue playing sports, and I went to community college because I really wasn't necessarily qualified to get into any school that I would have wanted to go to anyway. But it was a great experience for me, man. Community college is overlooked by so much of this country, and no one realizes that you spend 2 years of your life at community college. You still get 2 years at another school, and the diploma that you're going to tell everyone about is from that other school.
Yeah.
You can save yourself 40 grand a year. You can have a small class. You can be in class with other people who had similar struggles as you, or people who are new to the country, or people who are trying to continue their education as adults, and not be competing with the superstars of their class from all over the country who want to go to the school that you're going to wind up at. So I went to community college, and I did really well there. I got to play sports, so check that box. I did pretty well in class, and playing sports helped that because I wanted to not fail off so I could continue to play. And at the end of community college, I was accepted into the University of Maryland, College Park, which is the school I always wanted to go to, but had no chance of going to at the end of high school. And I graduated from there with a business degree. But no trouble when I was at College Park. The same kids that I would have had no chance getting better grades than in high school were the same kids that I was destroying at College Park when I was there. Oh.
Yeah. Well, dude, I honestly, I really wish I did that. And like, I remember when I was getting close to graduating high school, I remember just hearing it all the time. Like, go to community college for the first 2 years because you take elective and it's the same thing. And you literally go to this other school. Like, if you were to go to a private school or some way more expensive school, to literally charge you the same for these classes. And man, people, you got to take this advice for real. So you went on a business major. Was that your trajectory? Like, what were you thinking in terms of like, what am I going to do with my life?
Right. Well, I knew that I was going to own a business or own businesses. And that path, I chose that path, but it was kind of also chosen for me. I started like most people did at that time with minimum wage jobs, food service. I did catering. I waited tables. I did all of it. I had some more business related jobs in college. Every single one I got fired from. Just couldn't do it. I couldn't take the direction. I couldn't be told what to do. And when I was told what to do, I didn't want to do it that way, or I thought there was a better way. And so I couldn't hold a job. So I knew I was going to own a business because there was no path for me working for someone.
Right.
It was never going to work out. I was going to be constantly looking for a new job every time I was let go. And I know the reason I was going to get let go, because I earned it.
Yeah.
Because I thought I could do it better. And maybe I could have done it better, but you don't know unless you start your own business and try to do it better. So I did go to business school to learn the way that people are taught to run successful businesses, not necessarily to follow the textbook advice of how to run a successful business. I wanted to, there were the case studies. Right. There's team group work, which I think is great. When you're not in business school, you might go through entire college and never have a partner. And in business school, you get teamed up in certain classes. You have a group of 4, and you learn how to work with them as a team to do a project. Like, that was super important lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, I was a one-man show in everything. Yeah. And so I learned how to work with a group of peers. When you come out of school, you're going to be working for people, but also have peers. And that's the first experience I actually had having peers, where we could work together, come up with ideas, figure out as a group what's best. And you do learn that sometimes, as crazy as it sounds, other people have good ideas too.
Yeah, definitely. Like I know, teamwork, having clear communication is like, depending on who you talk to, it's like one of the most important skills that you can have. A friend of mine, Don Wettrick, is like, most people, as kids in the school system, education system, what do they call teamwork? Plagiarism. And it's just like, that's not actually how the real world works, where, you're not going to be isolated in like this bubble where like, all of a sudden it's just you and it's just this piece of paper and you don't have access to the outside world. I'm sure, that could happen, but the importance of learning how to work with other people throughout your entire life is like a real foundational skill. And it's like crazy to, what you said, people can go through an entire year of school and college and not even work with a team. That's crazy.
And if you have big ideas, it's virtually impossible for you to accomplish that big idea without a team.
No.
It's just, you don't have enough time, you don't have enough resources, you can't do it. And teaching has changed now. Like I see it with my kids. They do more group work. They'll have a kid who's high performing help teach a kid who's lower performing.
That's awesome.
And if my kid's a lower performing person, that's great. They're learning from their classmate who is higher performing, and they're getting another voice, and they're doing it together. And when I was in school, here's what you're going to learn, and you either learn it or you don't. And if you don't, they move on to the next thing, and you just never know it. So I think education's come a long way, or at least the school they go to is better than the one I went to.
Definitely. You got good and bad everywhere you go.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to hear. So you have this sort of business mindset. What was like, I don't know, maybe like a first like business success for you, or how did you end up progressing down that road of like where your real focus should be?
Well, like most people who are going to wind up owning businesses as an adult, I owned businesses prior to being an adult. I was the kid in middle school that was buying a pack of gum and cutting it up into the 6 pieces and then selling it out of my pocket to kids for a profit. It was 50 cents for the pack, and each one I was going to sell for $0.25. And so then I could go buy 2 packs of gum the next time and keep the profit. And then I'd buy 4 packs of gum. And that business came to a violent end when the assistant principal asked me, could he buy a piece of gum from me? And I told him, sure. You're not supposed to have gum in school, but
oh wow.
So that was over immediately. The next business I started was when I was in community college. I started with a friend of mine. We were reselling. This is going to sound crazy, but we were reselling pager service. Yeah, pager. Let me describe what a pager is. It's the device that people used to use before they had cell phones to tell other people that they wanted to get a call from them. I know. Leaps and bounds since that day. And so a friend of mine and I, we started that business where we went to, a giant communications company, and we entered into a contract to resell some of their bandwidth. And we did that in community college, and it was great. It felt good. We were giving people a service they wanted. But that ended, and I graduated, and I thought, okay, so I'm going to start a business. What's the business going to be? And I hate to do things small. I just can't do it. I can't be limited. I don't want to own something and put all my time into something that's going to wind up just having a small impact or not be scalable or something like that. And so I at the time didn't think that I had the capacity or the resources to start a business, because of the scale of what I wanted to do.
And I didn't know. How old were you at that time?
I was 22, 23. I graduated college a semester late. And then I took a semester. I traveled for a semester. I learned a little bit about myself in the world, and I decided to go to law school, which is kind of not starting a business. And by kind of, I mean not starting a business. 3 more years of grueling education, but I did it with the mindset of this is going to get me closer to owning the kind of business that I'm going to own, because I really didn't think that I was going to be an attorney. going forward. I just thought that the style of education that I would get from law school would be beneficial, and the law degree and having the bar exam would be beneficial to me in amplifying whatever it is that I wanted to do, whether it's, acquiring capital, acquiring talent, just give more firepower behind whatever it was that I was going to do.
So you wanted to understand like sort of the business legality of like when you're going to do these things, exactly sort of what you needed. And then also, if I understand correctly, like almost like the challenge of being able to like have a lot of information. Cause like I have some lawyer friends and, they tell me all the time, like you've got to know like a lot, you got to read a lot, you have to have a lot of information. So is that right?
Yeah, it was kind of the way that you learn in law school versus the information that you're acquiring. And most education is about acquiring knowledge. And that's what you have to do to pass the bar, and that's what you have to do to pass a class. But in law school, they really just teach differently than anything else that I've ever done, where they're teaching you how to learn. They're teaching you how to analyze massive amounts of information. It's not necessarily, to me, it's not necessarily the information that you learned, but that you're going to be able to reapply how you learned that information to other areas. So if you received a good law school education, which I do believe I did receive, you come out with an extraordinary amount of information about law, constitutional law and contract law and criminal law and a bunch of other topics that you really will never deal with your entire professional career or personal life. But what you really learned was how to process just immense amount of information and distill it to kind of the core of what that information is, and then being able to present that information to a new person who's going to be your decider as the educator. So you learn everything that you need to learn, and that was I learned how to do that in law school. Distill it down, tell a story to the judge, the arbitrator, whoever it's going to be, who knows nothing about what I'm about to tell them. So they're starting at zero, and now I'm the teacher, and I want to teach them the way I wish someone would have taught me. And so that's what I write for them. That's what I tell them is how I would have learned what I want them to learn. That's what law school taught me. I mean, it doesn't hurt that law school armed me with a law degree and and bar admission.
Yeah. Wow, that's super smart. Never thought of it that way. So how did you begin to shift this into eventually starting another big project of suing a ton of people?
Yeah.
Or tell us about that.
Well, that sounds awesome. I'm glad I'm doing that. So when I came out of law school, I still was thinking start your own business, but weighed down by law school loans, life happening.
Right.
You get your car payment. You might run into a mortgage payment or your rent payment. That rent payment gets bigger because you think you're living life a little better. And then no matter how much money you make, you never have enough money. You think that you don't have enough money, or I thought I didn't have enough money to do what I really wanted to do, start my own business. So I took a law firm job, and I was representing business, which is not who I am. Well, let me correct that. I like being on the side of a case where I think I like representing the person who I think was wronged. And in my first job, all the cases that were being filed were filed by people who thought that they were wronged against the businesses that I was being assigned to represent. So that was hard for me to do, but it was my job, and that's what I was being paid to do. And I do believe that every company, every person has a right to a legal defense, and I had a duty to my employer, and I did the best work that I could do, but my heart wasn't with it. I had an opportunity a couple years into working for them, which felt like a couple of decades, if we're being honest, to work for a plaintiff side law firm, and by plaintiff side, I mean consumers. They were representing consumers who felt that they had been wronged. And I started doing that. I did that for a couple of years. And I learned a lot. And it more vibed with who I felt I was. And of course, that still wound up not working out perfectly. Basically for the same reasons that every other job I ever had didn't work out. And so as I was jobless, and looking for another job, my wife suggested that it was time, that you really should start your own law firm. There's no reason why you wouldn't. You know how to do what you're doing. You don't need someone else to tell you how to do it. All you need is clients. And if there's anyone who knows how to get business, it's you. So I was continued to look for a job while I started my business. And for many months, I was still looking for a job as I was building my law firm, working for myself, very small amount of money to start with. And we had an agreement that this is the amount of money that we can afford to lose on the business. And when that money was gone, the business was gone. So there was a lot of pressure to get things operating correctly. I don't know if that's the right way to go about things, but we didn't have another option. And luckily for me, I started figuring out the right balance between saying yes to cases, saying no to cases, how much to charge for cases, what a winning case looks like versus a losing case, what's a good use of my time versus a bad use of my time, and things. I started to figure it out. And as I became more successful, I was able to file bigger cases, represent more people, not necessarily take more cases, but just work smarter. And that's how I started getting into class actions, consumer class actions, which led me all the way to where we stand today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wanted to ask you that for people that don't know, what is it exactly that, happens, and could you give us some examples, maybe, if I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it, or an example of what this would be in terms of class action, or what the work that your organization deals with now.
Well, the most recent case I can't talk about any case that I settled, because generally speaking, we'll enter into a confidentiality agreement, and that's up to my client in the end. But anything that's been signed that's confidential, I can't discuss, although I can say that you can research it for yourself because it's all a matter of public record. But anyway, the most recent case that we filed, and people think of consumer class action as a bad thing. And I'm here to try to correct the record on that. Consumer class actions are not a bad thing. Consumer class actions try to, or at least I believe when I do them, try to correct an economic injustice that's being inflicted by a business against massive amounts of consumers. And people think of consumer class actions as consumers getting 33 cents and attorneys getting rich. Well, I'm here to testify to you that I'm not rich. But I have been very successful doing consumer class actions in the past. Sometimes the reason you get a 33-cent check is because you were harmed by 33 cents. It doesn't mean that the attorney ripped you off and took a bunch of money. But any event, that's my 2 cents. The most recent case that I filed is against DoorDash. And DoorDash is a food delivery, a third-party food delivery company that hires, no, I can't say that either, that uses independent contractor delivery people to deliver orders from restaurants that they don't own or operate, who don't want their own staff, their own delivery company.
I've used it.
Yeah. And so, all right, so you're a potential client of mine. DoorDash was the New York Times published an article stating that DoorDash was skimming tips from the drivers, that the drivers were being told that they were getting any money that was being tipped to them from the customer, and the customers were being told any money that they tipped were going to the drivers. But what the New York Times reported, and what appears to be 100% accurate, is that DoorDash promised its drivers a certain amount of money for a delivery, and if any amount of tip was given and it didn't go more than that promise, then DoorDash lowered the amount that they were paying the driver by the tip amount. So instead, if they said it was, okay, we're going to pay you $7 for the delivery, and then the consumer tipped $6, DoorDash would only pay them $1. And then the $6 that was supposed to be a tip would cover the other $6. But the customer was being told every penny that you pay is going to be a tip to the driver. Yeah. So even though the driver's being told you're going to make $7, and then the person tips, they still only wind up making $7, and the customer subsidized DoorDash's growth and labor costs, which I find hard to believe. That it took 2 years for people to figure this out. So we filed a class action on behalf of the people that were paying the tips. And I was asked for a news article, what's the point? No one's going to get anything back. Maybe people will get a buck back or something like that. And my answer to them was, first of all, this is 20 million people who who were wronged, to the tune of $1 billion, and that $1 billion is in the wrong pocket today.
Right.
We believe that $1 billion should go back to the person who paid it, who, if they would have been told that if they gave no tip, the driver would have made the same amount of money. So yes, it is possible that someone might only be entitled to $5 back, but who should have that $5? I think everyone would agree it should be, everyone except for one company would agree that money belongs to the person who paid the tip.
Yeah.
So that's the most recent class action that we filed, and we loaded that onto SueThem.com for people to join in.
Dude, I love this because, you hear it, today we hear it all the time. Like anytime you're on social media, it's like, this corporation, this company does something that, they really messed up, and they really, I was reading someone, like some company with pesticides has to pay like hundreds of millions of dollars, and like with each person's medical care and really, really intensive things. And I feel like this is really just like a shot that, people can take that are being afflicted that, may not necessarily by themselves be able to go against like, a $1 billion company with a set of lawyers or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. Well, in this case, it's $1 billion of money that was skimmed. So imagine what the company's worth.
Right.
But you're right. So SueThem.com is giving a voice to people who believe that they were wronged, but have a claim that's not really the type of claim that most lawyers would jump on.
Yeah.
Because there aren't a lot of lawyers that are going to spend 3 or 4 years fighting a big company to get someone $5, $10, $15, $100 back. And through SueThem.com, people can come and sign up and join thousands of other people who had the same thing happen to them and be in control of their own destiny. So this is a unique concept in the legal field, and it comes from my business background, kind of understanding that there was a problem out here. There was an issue that needed fixing. And the way to fix this is to aggregate individuals who have the same claim to allow them to control their own destiny of their case. If they think that $10 is the right amount of money and they're offered $10, they can take it. If they think their claim is worth $1,000, they can say no and say, I'm not going to settle this case. I want to find out if this happened. And for some people, they might want that $1,000. Some people might just want the information. Some people just might want to know, and there's a lot of people in this country that want to know, am I doing business with a company that's doing good for their workers and for society? And if we find out the truth for them, they can make a better decision going forward. No amount of money that we're going to get back, potentially, in that case, is going to stop DoorDash from being a company. But if 10,000 people sign up or 20,000 people sign up And we get to the end of the case and we determine that this is what was happening. And then these 10,000 people say, because of this, I'm never going to do business with this company again. I don't trust them.
Right.
They will tell their friends and family. And their friends and family will tell their friends and family. And they will post on social media.
Right.
And before you know it, there might not be a company.
Right.
Because the company is only its customers.
Yeah.
And if you don't treat your customers right, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
So that's partially what it's doing. We are trying to recover money for people. That's what lawyers do. But we are also seeking justice in whatever form people are attempting to seek justice for, whether that's finding out the truth or recovering money or both. We want to be the conduit for that.
It's amazing. I think it's how we, settle the tides of business and make sure people are doing the right thing. That's awesome. Cory, I would love it if you could, at the end of the podcast, I love to have my guests leave the audience with a self-inquisitive question, maybe a question you've asked yourself, and then also where can people go to learn more about you?
All right. Let me answer the second question first. My website is www.suethem.com, SUETHEM. Get past the name and click through to the website and see what we're all about. And I think you'll agree that we're doing good things. You can also email me personally if you'd like at Cory@suethem.com, CORY@suethem.com. And a question that I think your listeners should ask themselves, and that I think anyone should ask themselves, what are you doing? Like, seriously, what are you doing? And then add any word to the end of that. It's a million questions in one question. What are you doing? So, what are you doing today? What are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing in life? Like, what are you doing? Are you doing anything? Like, just I wish people would think about that more, because I think if a lot of people ask themselves that question, they'd be doing something different with their life.
Yeah, seriously. Totally agree. Cory, dude, this was such an honor. I love speaking to you. Thank you for listening to the Humans 2.0 podcast. This has been your host, Mark Metry.